Hello, good morning everybody. Nice to see so many wonderful people showing for a very, very early start. We do appreciate you coming along and registering and actually showing up. So clapping to everyone for your attendance today. Today we've got some really wonderful things happening. First of all, if I could just do some minor housekeeping, if that's okay. If we could have mobile phones on silent, we're happy for you to tweet, so please do so. We've got lots of great content that the Ninja will be talking about today. We do have bathrooms outside, straight through to the right. There are emergency exits, so if you hear the whoop whoop, we all know what to do, run. The other thing is I'd like to welcome all the existing members, all the new members. Can we have a show of hands of anyone that's a new member at a first-time event? Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the wonderful community, and we hope that we see you again. Don't just show up today. We've got lots of great events. So we've got a show of hands, first-timers, new members, corporate or individual. Welcome. We've got lots of benefits. We've got some. We'll be talking about that later on today at the close of the program. But today we have a first in New South Wales, and probably a first in Australia or for an itSMF event, actually. We'll be publishing the content today via social media, via Google Hangout. So we'll be streaming live through Kathryn over to YouTube. So lots of great content will be streamed live, but also you'll be able to access it after today's finished. So lots and lots of great stuff. We'll also be providing the content of the slides that Peter's presenting today for you to download. We'll let you know once that's available. So thank you very much. We've basically got Peter talking today about what can go wrong in a program. We've also got a wonderful segment on from our sponsor from ServiceNow. Thank you very much for sponsoring this session. Lovely to have you on board today. And also we'll be doing lots of updates about the itSMF, some of the features and benefits, but also about the conference, past and the one that's coming up in the future in Melbourne. So lots of details coming up today. Without further ado, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Peter. A lot of you will know Peter. He's been around the traps for a long time. Having said that, he is a luminary in the itSMF world. He's also what I call the ITIL V3 Buddha. He's got his own standing, right? He is God. There's a few luminaries up there, and Peter's one of them. He has a large following. He's known as the ITIL Ninja, for those of you that don't know, but he's also a contributing author to the ITIL V3 service operational books. So anyone with any gripes about service operations, Peter's the guy to see. Yeah? It's a great book though, so I think that's the one that's least complained about. So also, a contributing author, he's also a senior solutions consultant for ServiceNow, and he's worked across Asia Pacific, etc., primarily based in Australia, but he's a jet setter, a globetrotter, as we like to say. He does a lot of speaking engagements, so not only in Australia but internationally, so he's quite well known internationally, not just here in Australia. I'd also like to say that Peter is an advocate of service portfolio and how the business should be, or IT should be interacting with the business, about how we should be looking for contributing value and making sure that we deliver things that the business requires. So Peter's a massive advocate for that, and probably one of the pioneering people that spoke about the need to integrate with the business and deliver business requirements and value. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Peter Doherty. Mr. Peter Doherty, ITIL Ninja, thank you.
Thanks, Lana. So Lana is one of the few people that actually calls me Ninja, and it's a little bit hard to get used to it over time. So all I've got to do is work out how to start this, because when I click it goes to the next bit. Huh? How do I start the present?
Lana?
Oh, there we go. Oops, go back. I don't want to scare anyone. Okay, so you don't often get those introductions and these sort of things, but what it's really good to see is that for a morning session where you have to get up early and it's a pretty brisk morning, that there's so many people here today. I go to some of the itSMF sessions and I look around and there's plenty of empty seats. That's not the case today. It's really interesting. At the conference this year, we're looking at what the mix of the people were going to be. And from the feedback from the conference last year, we got the impression that we're concentrating a lot of the more mature processes and helping people go to the next level. And this year at the conference, about 75% of all the people were first-time attendees. So they were coming there to try and find new tips and techniques. So we thought that we really wanted to concentrate on a one-on-one stream. If you're getting started, these are some of the things that you really need to concentrate on. And even if you're an experienced practitioner, these are the things that you could well do with being reinforced and reminded of things to do. And as Lana said, I think the basic thing that I read out of Lana's introduction was that I'm old. I've been around for a long time. Experience, I read old. So I've been doing IT service management for a long time, and during that time you get to work with a large number of organisations that are trying to implement service management. And not always is it a really happy story with how it all goes. So what I decided for the conference, I'd take a look at a number of different organisations that I've worked with over the years and look at some of the things that have caused them issues and things that they didn't get under control, which if they had have got it under control, it would have made for a much more pleasant experience in delivering the service management programs. So all the stuff that I'm talking about here today are based on real life facts. They're based on companies I've worked with, but they're based on organisations that I've had dealings with. But what I'm doing is protecting the guilty, because this is a meld of all those different things. It's not from any one organisation. Now, the format that I'm using for the presentation today, because I'm a very visual person, I like throwing out visuals and talking about them, which is a really pain for you people who are detail people who like to have lots of content on slides. So what I've done, I've got two presentations in one. When you download this from the website, you'll have my session, which is all about the nice graphics, and it'll also have the detailed bullet points on each one of these. So you'll have the ability to do that. So you won't have to write down every word that I say, not that you probably would anyway. So this is all about real life case studies. One of the things that Lana sort of mentioned is that, well, I spend a lot of time doing speaking and presenting, and I also spend a lot of time helping people do implementation. So I'm foremost a practitioner. So most of this comes from real world experience. Now, I like to go and look from the analysts to get some backing up of my information. So is anyone here from Gartner? Okay, unfortunately I couldn't afford to go to Gartner to do any of the analytics. I do have a nice little boutique analytics firm out of Southeast Asia called Gartner, and there's no relationship with Gartner. And Gartner have a mystical quadrant, nothing to do with the magic quadrant that Gartner has. So these are my disclaimers for anything like that. But once again, unfortunately the copyright police raided them, so they went out of business. They have transitioned to a very nice line of Bolex watches. So if you want any of them, they're really, really good. So I had to rely on my own analysis. And when I look at what is the cost of a dead ninja, what is the cost of a failed service management implementation, I look at some of these contributing factors. The 2013 Peter Doherty gut feel, as Lana said, the Buddha. I don't know if I like being called the Eiffel Buddha as much. Okay, I see a big fat guy rubbing his tummy, so that's not what I see. It's not how you deliver the message, it's how it's received. So here's some things that I've learned over the years. When I look at where we invest our money in IT service management programs, we spend a lot of time putting money into process design. We put a lot of money into technology, buying technology implementation, and we often put a very tiny amount of money into other stuff. And this other stuff is generally where your organizational change management comes in. So one of the first things I've noticed with a lot of different service management implementations, they look at their budgets, and what is the first thing that gets stripped out? The other stuff. The reason being, this tends to grow in scope, this tends to grow in scope, and they go, I've got to get money out of it somewhere. So a lot of this stuff comes down to money and where we spend it. So we really do need to take a very good look at where we are spending our money. Now, there's a number of areas, distinct areas that I've broken this up into to say why people fail at doing these things. And the categories around starting up the program, how I establish it. Once I've established the program, what governance do I need in place to be able to make sure that it goes forward? And then the design of what I want to deliver. From the design, I need to then work out how I'm going to align that with technology. Because what's one of the first things that we do when we introduce best practice? We put an overhead on. Because we have to, so we have to automate that. And we've got to drive this out through technology to our customers to deliver it. And then once I have all this in place, I've got to be able to communicate to my customers so they know what's happening. One of the biggest failures is that other bit is generally the communication planning. The communication that tells your customers what you're doing and why you're doing it. and we often forget about that. Then there's also the stuff where we do about the training, and often one of the first things we de-scope in a project is reporting. So I want to make sure that my reporting is up to scratch, because if I go and deliver some of these things and I can't get any metrics out, how can I do improvement? I need those sort of things. So these are some of the areas that often will cause organisations to fail as they move forward doing their service management programs. Now, oftentimes when I start to establish a program, I'm just standing at a cliff. I'm looking over at the great abyss in front of me, and I'm sort of teetering on the edge. And I've got to start thinking about, what do I want to get out of this program? How many organisations here have actually got specific program establishment set up where I have goals and I have objectives? Because how do I know we've succeeded or been successful? Who here is a change manager? Okay, in changes, what is one of the things I really want to capture? I really want to capture what is going to be my success criteria. And I can't capture that unless I know what my goals and objectives are going to be. So they have to be foremost in our mind, being able to think, this is what we want to achieve, because at the end of it, we need to look back and say, have we achieved those things? If we have achieved them, we then need to use that as growth to go on and do other stuff. Now, we've got the program established, and oftentimes we're going to have to spend money in it. To spend money, I need to put up a business case. Who here has done a business case? Business cases are hard to do for this sort of stuff, because we talk about a lot of intangible type stuff. We talk about productivity improvements. In the last few years, whenever I put a business case up that says there's going to be productivity improvements, the person with the business case goes, okay, productivity improvements, that means less headcount. Which people are you going to lose as part of putting in this program? And of course, that's not what it's all about. There's lots of things that I need to put into a business case to be able to make sure there's benefit. So oftentimes when I talk about getting a business case up for one of these programs, I talk about looking at a process that is pretty broken within your organisation, that may be a high volume process or a high cost process, and look at how you can fix that. Here's done the service catalogue implementations. Service catalogue is about the hottest thing in service management at the moment. You want to know why? The reason is I can deliver so many savings to the back end while delivering a really good customer experience. I can use a service catalogue business case just about to be able to justify anything else I want to do within service management, because the savings are so large. But people always seem to struggle with the business cases. So what I've got to look at is real tangible stuff where I can get benefits in it. Look at how long it takes my resolver teams to resolve things. Look at whoever goes and looks at their incident backlog. The incident backlog is something that really bugs my end users, because they're things that are stopping them from doing things that they want to do. How do I reduce that backlog without throwing FTEs at it? You know, I get smarter in the way that I do that. So I can go and say, you know, my mean time to repair, my mean time to resolve, I can put some real metrics about these things. But I have to put some detail into going in and actually spending time and looking at these sort of things. So I really do have to have a vision of where I'm going forward, what my goals, what my objectives are, and then a plan to get there. So then we've got that. We've got a business case written up. We've got where we're going to get real tangible benefits. And now it's time to kick the project off. So one of the other areas that a lot of organisations fail is governance. They go, okay, let's kick it off. I'll give it to a program manager. We've got some project managers. You do this bit, you do this bit, and we put a plan together. And how often do those plans that we throw together actually work all the time? Not very often, because there's always going to be things that will stop us being able to move forward. So one of the things that I've seen in successful organisations that have done this, they've set up a very strong steering committee. So the steering committee has overall governance of all the things, all the different points of the program. And the steering committee isn't just somewhere that you have all the different stakeholders come together once a month and where the program manager gives them an update. The steering committee is where somebody that needs to have leadership for the overall program. You know, we talk a lot about having executive sponsorship and executive leadership. We have to have our steering committee actually involved in the things that we're doing. They have to sign off on the goals and the objectives of what they're going to do, and they have to make sure that they have regular input. It's not just about program management. It's about understanding what you're doing. when is the first time that you know that a project has hit red? The day it happens. So all of a sudden it comes to a surprise to everyone outside the project team, but everyone in the project team has been seeing all the indicators through their gut or whatever leading up to that. What you have to do is take a step back and make sure that anything that needs to be addressed, anything that puts the project into yellow from a governance perspective, the steering committee can jump in and do something about it. I've also, successful steering committees are not just made up of internal IT or business people. What is another party that you think you should really want to have in on the steering committee inside your organisation? So I generally, when I go to presentations, I break up audience into two distinct groups. One distinct group is that if you ask them a question, even if they know the answer, they won't answer or put their hand up. The other group is that they're enthusiastic. If they know the answer, they'll answer or put their hand up. Now, I need anyone who's in that first group to identify yourself now, because I need to make this interactive. So what I want to do is I want to bring the other third parties that I work with into the steering committee. If I've got vendors who do other things that help me, I want to bring them as part of the ecosystem. So immediately, if something goes into a yellow state, the steering committee can take action on it, and they have the responsibility and authority to do it. So I want a fair amount of leadership coming out of my steering committee. I want to make sure that they have the sponsorship, the responsibility and authority. So oftentimes when I did workshops, I'd go, we have one day to do this workshop. These are all the things that we need to do. We need to come together as a team to agree on all these. Any single thing that we can't agree on, we'll put it in a parking lot on a whiteboard. They go straight to the steering committee. You don't necessarily want the steering committee making decisions about the things that you're doing because they may not have the full understanding. It puts a great deal of responsibility on the people to go and come up with the right things instead of bumping them up. And I also have got to make sure that if I have my program, from a governance perspective, I have to have a change management process. So if we have a change of scope, I need to then bump it up to the steering committee so they can approve it, because scope creep and shrinkage kills projects. Scope creep kills us because it takes too long. Scope shrinkage kills us because, I took a breath, you can answer? Right? It kills us because we don't deliver what we set out to deliver. So we've got to manage both of those things. So we have to have a way to handle deviation. And then once I start going on, I go, what are some of the common mistakes that people make as they go forward? The general type ones. So if I look here, oftentimes I don't have full ownership. You know, I've got an executive stakeholder or a sponsor that does these things, but is that the person that is really meant to be driving those sort of things? I have to make sure that I have ownership for the overall program and the project, and I also have to have ownership for all the different processes that are running out. Who here is a process lead in their organisation? An incident or change or a problem manager, something like that. So that's way too little hands going up. When I'm rolling out a service management program, for each of the processes I roll out, I want to have a lead. I want to have someone who has ownership, who will own the process, work with the stakeholders, bring the requirements in, and drive that process. I want to give them responsibility, and I want to give them authority to do things. Anything that's outside their level of authority goes up to the program management thing through the governance to make sure it happens. So I've got to make sure I've got to have a strong sense of ownership. I've also got to think, where do I start? Now, I remember, who here has heard the traditional thing, start where your most pain is? It's sort of a glebe thing you start, and oftentimes we don't understand where that most pain is, so we have to take a step back and not necessarily say, where is our most pain, but we say, what is going to deliver most value to the business? Because if it's just an internal pain thing, who's going to really fund that? If it's something that is of value to the business, I can then go and get business stakeholders in, and I can make sure that I have business outcomes. I hear way too many service management programs that don't have a single business outcome. There's not a single thing that we can relate back to the business that will make something better for them. You know, from the change and release management process, I've seen broken change and release management processes that meant the organisation was having a 20 to 30% opportunity loss on delivering new programs. I worked with one financial organisation that was trying to white label credit cards, and it took them so long to go through all their processes to do that, another major competitor jumped in and totally stole the market from them. So we've got to start thinking outside IT and think how we can relate these things to driving business outcomes. So as a process owner, I really need to have a business outcome that I need to do. And also I need to start thinking about, do I want to take a do I want to be consulting, or do I want to be really prescriptive in how I do it? The business says, I want you to be agile and be quick. Gone are the days when I can have a 12-month service management program from the time that I start to the time that I live to deliver it. The way we deliver things quick in an agile manner is being reasonably prescriptive in how we do things. So don't spend a huge amount of time analysing the as-is state. Some of the consulting firms hate me saying that, but I think that there's much more money in rapid time to value. I say this all the time, I'm an 80% guy. Get me 80% of the business functions and value, and I will get that out quicker to you, and then I'll do the next phase and the next phase. What is the Deming cycle? Plan, do, check, act. What is the IT Deming cycle? Plan, do, stop. The reason it's plan, do, stop is the first bit is so hard, so we never get to the second bit. We've got to be more agile. We can't stop. A service management program isn't something that you can stop. It's got to keep going. But traditionally, we stop. We roll it out. Let's move on to the next project. I can't stop. I've got to keep delivering benefit. Who here has read the CSI book, the V3 CSI book? Okay. The V3 CSI book is probably one of the last books to have the shrink wrap taken off. It'll be sitting in the shelf, no one reads it. Because of that too hard mentality, we don't go and do enough of it. And also communications. We've really got to make sure that our communications are out to the stakeholders. So we're now putting a program together. We've got a steering committee. We've got governance in place. We're looking at the things that we need to we start at. And then oftentimes we need to take a step back and go, we've got to a point that do we look at process first? Do we go back and re-engineer a whole heap of processes and spend a lot of workshops doing that? Or do we take the prescriptive approach that I'm talking about and look at how we can use technology to drive? 5 years ago, everyone would have said, what we've got to do is do a whole heap of process workshop, work out what the process is, who's doing that. Guys, most of those processes I can download off the internet these days. I don't need to spend a huge amount of time and money getting in and sitting around and considering what I need to do. What I need to do is take those, remember those process leads, I need to enable them to go and say, this is the way I'm going to move forward. I talk about air service management. Welcome to air service management. Check in all your baggage at the door and we're moving forward. We're looking at what we have to do going forward. We don't want to go and re-engineer past processes, because the whole reason we're doing this is because we want to make things better. Oftentimes I don't want to take baggage from the past. So we go, which is the horse or the cart that we want to do first? In my experience, taking a prescriptive approach where I go and say, I'm going to spend some money on technology. I've got to go and buy technology. So when I do go and buy technology, a lot of times it will have built-in practices that we can use. So oftentimes you'll go and look, you've heard the term adopt over adapt. This is one of the things that kills a lot of organizations, that they say, I'm going to adopt over adapt, and then they buy it, and then what do? They start adapting the hell out of it. And then that just makes it a harder and longer road. So we have to take a look at, where do we start? Do we start with our process workshops, or do we start with technology? So I come from a technology organization. I'm not sure whether I'm the horse or the cart, one of those two. But from my perspective and from seeing successful implementation, your technology partners will generally have a great deal to offer to you going forward. And that's where some of the money should be spent. I gave a presentation in Western Australia to a university a while ago, and this guy in the audience goes, oh, so what do you think? Should we do a lot of process evaluation first, or we should go with the toolset thing? I go, if you go with spending a whole 3 or 4 months doing process reviews and everything like that, you're probably not getting value for your money. And the guy goes, well, I guess I've just done myself out of the job because I've got a 3-month contract here to do process review. I go, oh, okay. What I should have said, really, was that there is much more value in taking the money that you're going to invest in process development and putting it in phase 2 and 3, as opposed to spending 3 or 4 months up to get somewhere where you're about to start. So I see the investment in consulting and process reviews not going away. I see it shifting as part of the life cycle of the service management program. I see it shifting into the phase 2, the phase 3, and so on. And because now we can do those sort of things, because it isn't so much heavy lifting in the phase 1, I can do those things. I move away from my plan, do, stop to my plan, do, check, act, which it was always meant to be. So I need to look at which one I do there. Now, I won't spend too much time on this slide, but 5 years ago, who knows Aidan Laws? Who remembers Aidan Laws? Aidan Laws used to be the guy who started up itSMF in the UK, and Aidan would travel around and doing this presentation all over the place, and his first slide used to always say, a fool with a tool is still a fool. And 5 years ago, that was pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate nowadays as well. But back in the day, it was because it was thought to be, the tool is the silver bullet that'll do everything for you. It's moved away from that these days because there is now quite a chasm between the different tools and what you have to choose from. Going forward, there is really, from a technology perspective, leaving every pros and cons aside of that, there is two choices for you. Do I want to go and have a solution that's hosted in the cloud, or do I want to have a solution that is on-premise? Or maybe a combination of the two. This is something that only you can decide. So you need to have a think about what technology is the best fit for you. Once you actually do then decide what sort of technology is the best fit for you, so you can go to the Gartner things, you can go to itSMF, you can go to vendor sessions and all that, and they will give you a whole heap of information about what these different things are. So you need to choose what type of tool, what type of technology is best. And then, at some stage, you've got to work out how to go and acquire it. Now, Dilbert is one of my favorites because I spend a lot of time responding to RFIs and RFPs. And oftentimes I'll get an RFP sent to me, 100 pages, and it's like, do you do ITIL? And then it's got blah, 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 all these different technology things. Do you do this? Can an incident link to change? Oh my God, I wouldn't be in business if an incident couldn't link to the change. Can you do all these sort of things? And from a vendor perspective, when I read through that, I go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You're looking at a piece of technology. I went to an organization once that was my customer for some area, and they go, we want to do CMDB. I go, you mean you want to do configuration management? Yeah, that's what I said. We want to implement a CMDB. Okay, I came and talked to you. And the room was like this. There was about 15 people in the room. And I'm looking around the room, and I go, have you got your configuration manager here? No, we don't have a configuration manager. Have you got a configuration process that we can talk about? No, we haven't got that yet. Have you at least got a change manager in the room? No. And I looked around the room, Unix team lead, network team lead, Windows team lead, application team lead, and I go, sorry guys, you guys are going to fail. The reason you're going to fail is because you don't have any of the background stuff to make you successful, and you're also just looking at technology. Does this widget turn this way and then go into this hole? You've got to look at the business outcomes you're trying to deliver. And they go, yeah, we get that, but does your incident relate to a problem? And I'm going, yeah, and 3 years later, they still haven't done anything like that. So now when you're starting to looking at getting a technology, you're now looking at moving into a partnership with your vendor or vendors. And oftentimes that partnership can be rocky or strong depending how it starts out. So I love this one. Here's my RFI. It's got 400 different things. Oh my God, that's got nothing to do with real life and what people do. Yeah, so what we should do is throw in one single question that's user-friendly. It doesn't work that way. I've got to look at these things much more detailed. I'm now starting to move into a partnership with my vendor. It's like a marriage. Going into the partnership, we need to know what is the goals, the common goals we need to share. So oftentimes, I see a very adversarial relationship happen between the people looking for a solution and the people who are going to provide the solution. Because the people looking for the solution, they will go and say, these are all my requirements. Here, can you do ITIL? Can you respond to all these things? Who here was at the itSMF conference? Okay, Karen Ferris talked about this. Karen Ferris talked about if you're putting together an evaluation, what I really need to be able to do is make sure that it's not just can you do ITIL. I love when customers say, here are my use cases. Come in and demonstrate how you do those use cases. They're not talking about whether you can relate this to this or I can do this report. They're saying these are my business outcomes that I need to do. These are the use cases. Come in and show me how you do those use cases. Will those use cases sometimes be very different to how they do it now? Well, maybe yes. So all of a sudden, here's a chance that I have of totally adopting a new way of doing things without having to configure the tool and do all those other things that are associated with the solution. Now, I have some guiding principles that when I work with customers who are implementing technology. So, as I said before, one of the first things a lot of places do, they will put out a whole heap of tender questions, and they will go and from those tender questions, they will say, here are all the things that I want the tool to do. Widget X goes into widget Y, this turns this way, this turns this way. They'll then go and buy the tool, and then what's the first thing that they do? They will just change you've got the bleeping button going, they'll change the heck out of it. Right? And all of a sudden it looks nothing like what they originally went out to buy. And guess what's now happened? Budget for technology is starting to blow out. So that's a really, really big problem. So when I'm starting to build a solution, I have two guiding principles about being able to go and do configurations and change to it. One of the guiding principles is that any change that wants to go into the tool, it has two channels to get in there to start with. The first channel is, does it make the process better? So what I say, because you've all been there, what do you tool? I want this field, and you go, why? Because it was like the ones that I had beforehand. And all of a sudden you get to start making it look like what you had before. And guess what? That's the whole reason you got a new tool, to not make it look like the way you had it before. So one of my guiding principles is that if a change makes the process better, it's probably pretty much a no-brainer to go and make that modification, as long as that process owner, who owns the process, has put it into their process document. So it's gone through the process. The second way is, does it give me a metric that I can make a decision on? Because oftentimes there won't be things there, and I'll have metrics that I want to drive out of it. Oftentimes the last thing we think about when we do this stuff is, what are the reports that I want to get out of it? So when I'm looking at going and building these things, I need to really have an open mind. I need to have nothing's off the table. So if your partner, and I talk about partner, here's the other thing. When you enter into a partnership, what is one of the biggest things that married couples fight about? Money. I'm glad you said that. Money. Right? So what do? When we go through this vendor procurement process, we go, okay, we picked the vendor we like. Now we give it to a group called vendor management or strategic sourcing to do the rest. Who has ever dealt with, sorry, is anyone here from strategic sourcing? Okay, you might want to stop the webcast now. So what strategic sourcing will do, what are their KPIs? Reduce cost. They're there to get a reduced price from the vendor. They have no alignment with your business outcomes. So they're driving to their KPIs. So all of a sudden I get into the next stage of my adversarial process, where we're now trying to screw the vendor down on price, which all of a sudden it tells the vendor what sort of relationship you want to have. Do you want to have a strategic partnership, or do you want to have a tactical? If you throw me straight to a group that are just going to try and bring down the price, it gives me a clear indication of what sort of relationship that I want to have. So I need to really avoid that. If you are in one of these cycles and you have something in with the strategic sourcing, you must make sure that strategic sourcing knows what your objectives are. And you must work with them so as that they work to achieve their objectives, not their objectives. Not the strategic sourcing's objectives, because they could be different. And in the end, your outcome may be worse because of a third party within your organization that wasn't aligned to your objectives. So I've got to keep that on track. So if it does go into strategic sourcing for a long time and not things are happening, you really need to stay on top of it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the outcome that you want. So once I start building the solution, I need to keep an open mind about how I do it. Look to use cases, right? Look to the way that you want to do things, and then look to how the tool set will do those use cases. And then look where I need to tweak some of the things in my process or the tool. Oftentimes it's really good to say to the vendor, okay, show me the use case you're doing this process. And then saying, why won't that work in here? Which bits won't work? And then doing a small gap analysis to build out those bits, as opposed to sitting back and saying, this is how my process works, these are all the things I want to do, you go and do it. because that way is going to cost you more money, it's going to take you longer, and you may not get the best outcome that you want. So oftentimes we sit there, and with scope creep and the way our stakeholders are engaged, it takes us a long time to go and build out the tool. Gone are the days when we can take 12 months to deliver on one of these programs. I really do need to have, from start to go, I need to be getting business value within 2 to 3 months. I can't say, in financial year 2013 I'm going to buy something, and financial year 2014, a bit into it, you'll start seeing the results. That is just way too long. Business doesn't allow us to take that long to do these things. We've got to be much more agile in the way we deliver these things. So I need to look at the gaps, I need to look at what the scope is, and I need to look at how I want to phase my delivery. This brings me to another thing that I've often seen organisations fail in how long it takes to deliver the service management program. So one company I worked with, from doing the initial workshops to rolling out to the end users, took 2.5 years. Another company, a large bank that I worked with, from doing the initial workshops to the first rollout was 1.5 years. Business doesn't tolerate those length of times, because what does that tell me? That tells me I'm throwing lots of dollars at that project to take that amount of time. One of the reasons that we now take a lot of that amount of time is that we have the traditional waterfall, the traditional waterfall way of delivering things, where I go into my program, and we have the first phase is my high-level design. That's 3 months. Second phase is my detailed design. That's another 3 months. Then, if I'm lucky, I've actually, within that 6-month period, I've acquired all the hardware that I need, all my servers, and then I go and start doing my build for my next 3 months. I build everything that I want in, and then I go, okay, it's now to do my user acceptance testing, it's now to do my final testing and rollout, and all of a sudden I'm over a year into the project, and everyone's forgot what those initial objectives that I have. We can't do that anymore because we have a high level of scrutiny. IT has got to deliver these things quickly. By doing this high detailed design, it takes me a long time to get this out. At the itSMF conference this year, Orica won Project of the Year for service management. So I worked very closely with that, and one of the reasons that they won that Project of the Year was because the guy that was running it, Hugh Bear, he goes, I have these important dates that I need to meet. Here's my phase 1, and guess what? My phase 1's taking 3 months. My phase 2 is taking 3 months. My phase 3 is taking 3 months. He goes, okay, for phase 1, these are the processes that I'm going to roll out. These are the high-level deliverables that I need. This is how much money I've got. And then he just burns at a velocity over perfection rate to get those requirements in. Did he get every single requirement he wanted into phase 1? No. So what did they do? They just came off the backlog and go into phase 2. He went to the vendor and go, I'm not going to lock down scope. They go, what? Not lock down scope? You're kidding me. So he said, these are all the things that are important to me. This is the money. This is how I've got to burn it. And these are my deliverables. That is so different from taking a traditional waterfall where it takes a long time. You now have the opportunity to deliver time to value to your business users and have business outcomes delivered in a much shorter time. We can't afford to spend a lot of time doing this sort of stuff. Who here has worked with the Agile framework for delivering projects? Agile framework is awesome. What I love about it is that we start thinking about what are the different processes we're going to roll out. And then we start writing the stories. And the stories are English versions of what the requirements are. And then we go, okay, here are all the stories. So I've got 100 stories. And I go, how big a team do I have to run on this? And then I work out, okay, these stories will work in my phase 1. These stories will work in my phase 2. And I just keep delivering value every time. And I keep rolling out new processes and people start using them. I'm not, from where to go, waiting 12 months to do this. And this allows us to do better user adoption because they start getting value much, much quicker than they would otherwise. So one of my big things, if you take anything away today, if I'm looking at a program of work, don't get driven down the waterfall approach. Look to someone who can help you do this in an agile manner because then you'll have very quick time to value. Now, it's not really good having much quick time to value if, when you do roll it out, no one knows anything about it. One of the other reasons that a lot of these fail is because when you start cutting budgets at the very beginning, what happens is that my communication plans go out the window. Communications plan is the lifeblood of getting organisational adoption of these sort of things. When should you start doing your communications plan? Straight away. It's one of the first things that you should do to get up and running, and you should plan it through the whole life of the project. The second you have the project approved, I should start going out and telling people about it. I should start telling them what's in it for them, when it's going to be delivered, and how it's going to be adopted, how it's going to help them. Communications is all about the them. It's not about us. It's about telling them, the consumers who will be using this, about what's happening, when it's happening. The more communications you can do as part of these programs is a better organisational adoption that you'll get. Only 20 minutes? Today? All right, I probably won't go for 20 minutes. So communication plan is really, really important. And it's not just sending out emails or things like this. Successful organisations do things like lunch and learn, brand bag sessions, where they'll bring the people that will be using the system in, and as they grow on the journey forward to where they want to be, they'll take them on all the different steps. Nothing should be a surprise, because guess what? In these programs, surprises are not the nice Christmas morning surprises. They're the bad surprises that something's gone wrong or something's going to change, and that something has to be done that I don't know about it. And oftentimes, organisations will concentrate on one type of communication. What do you think that one type of communication is?
Email.
Well, okay, maybe my finger pointing that way wasn't a direct giveaway, right? Upwards communications, but they may email, that sort of things. So what happens is that you find that the program team and the stakeholders, it's upward management, that they start telling people the project's going good, all that sort of thing, and they totally miss out on the broader scope of people that will have to be consuming this. Because guess what? I may have the best processes in the world, I may have the best technology in the world underpinning them, but what's the third part that I need? The people. If I don't have the people engaged, I will never get the full amount of benefit that I would get out of one of these programs. I just can't do it. So I've got to get my people engaged. And one of the things, it was really funny when we talked with Lana before with the intro. Lana talked about ITIL Buddha, sage, knowledge, all that sort of thing, serenity. I saw a fat guy there sitting there rubbing his tummy. So when I'm doing communication, I've really got to know about the target audience of how I go and communicate to people. Because guess what? It's not how you deliver a message that matters. What matters? Exactly how it's received. Human nature says that I will communicate in the way that I expect to be communicated to. So what I've got to think is, what are my audience and how do you think they would expect to be communicated to? And I've got to tailor those sort of things. So if I'm going and sending out my messaging and communications to my detailed team leaders and technical admins, I need to tailor the messaging in a way that they'll understand. It needs to be detailed, precise. It needs to be something that they can hang their hat on and do something. If I'm going out to the broader community, it has to be a broader type of messaging. It has to tell them about what's the benefit in them, what they're going to get out of it. Who here has rolled out self-service portals? How successful have they been? I get this quite a lot, and one of the reasons they tend to be less successful is that we don't communicate the values well enough to the people who are going to be using them. They'll just go and ring up all the time because there's no real value. We haven't told them the value. So we need to go out and talk about the value and how it'll make things better. How do you make a self-service portal more valuable to an end user? Sorry? Make them use it. Yes. Well, it's a very good thing when you can make the stick look like a carrot. Not many organisations can do it. I give it something in it to them. My previous organisation, we were told that if you used a self-service portal, you had a quicker service level to get a response to it. I don't know whether that was true or not, but a lot of people use the service catalogue to go and do that. The other thing with the service catalogue is I've got to make it very user-friendly. So here's the other thing. I've seen self-service portals put out, and this is around our communications, by IT shops. What do they look like? They look like self-service portals for IT people. You know, people who know about the processes, who know what an instance or a request is. You know, some of the people that we talk to and use these self-service portals don't even know how to turn on or off their PC. So we can't talk to them or communicate to them in a manner that we want to be communicated to. We've got to make sure we're communicating to them in a manner that they understand and they receive the messages. So it consists of a lot of consistent messaging about why this is happening. But we've got to change the context of why this is happening from why it's happening because of us to why it's happening because of them. You know, when you talk about the vast majority of customers you're rolling out self-service to, they are not the IT people. They'll be working in a branch, they'll be a teller, they'll be working in a government department behind a desk that they can't get their printer to work or they need a reset. We need to be able to go and give those messaging. Who here in their organisations have all their service management processes published on the internet somewhere? Okay, if you ever did a count of the number of hits to those pages, you would find under the number of pages hits up here, they'd be somewhere down there. You know, gone are the days where we could Visio diagrams up and all these sort of things because they're not consumable. So I've got to make sure all these things are consumable, and I've got to engage them because without the consumer and customer adoption, I'm probably not going to get a lot of the savings that I said in my business case when I started. Whoever here goes back and reviews the business case outcomes after the project's finished? Anyone? Really, generally all I hear is crickets and tumbleweeds when I ask that thing. Because Lana said about service portfolio management, I love service portfolio management because at the demand phase we're sitting there going, here's all the demand coming in, let's go and see how these really stack up from a business outcomes perspective. So as a demand funnel coming in, no matter what organisation you work with, what is the 3 universal criteria for determining what projects get built? Took a breath, can't speak. What are the 3 universal criteria? Come on, someone say ROI. Come on, please. So, yeah, that's a good one. What's another one? Generally everyone says, what's one of the ones ROI? I will tell you the 3 universal ones. One is the person who screams the loudest. Second is the one where the person is the most politically aligned. You all know about the pet projects that get up. And third is the people who write the best business cases. You know why I hate the third category worst? Because rarely do we ever go back at the end of the project and work out whether they were lying or telling the truth to us. So we don't have any business outcomes to look at the beginning. Then we go into the build phase. No, I won't answer this question. A lot of organisations will have projects that they are building that started off to be a 500K project, a 6-month quick deliverable, that 2 years later, they're $5.5 million and they're still not delivered. Does anyone know of organisations that have projects like that and programs like that? Yeah, not your organisations, but previous ones you worked for. You know, why don't organisations kill those projects? Why do they kill them? One reason is that they've never established the value up front because all they keep going is pouring more money into it. Who here plays blackjack? Okay, how much money can you afford to give the dealer before you push away from the chair?
What you can afford to lose.
Really? You play different the way I do. So this program manager is often like playing blackjack. The reason we don't kill off those projects is because of sunk cost. Sometimes you've just got to say, the business value doesn't stack up anymore, I've just got to push myself away from the table. I don't know how I got there from communications, but service portfolio management is one that I really love. Now, oftentimes, once we've got the communications happening, we look at learning like this. I don't say training plan, I say learning, because the training plan is where we set out courses. We'll say, this is what the process works, this is how you do it in the tool set. Gives a little pat on the bum and out they go to do it. Now, how often is something like that success? Rarely is it successful. So what we really need to do is, like evaluating a tool, we need to go and do training around use cases. So instead of going into saying, this is how you use a tool, this field does this field does this, this field does this, I need to make sure that I go, this is how you'll use it. It's not about what the screens are, what the drop downs is. Go, this is what you'll use it in real life. So I need to take them through that. Successful organisations I've seen have done that and published it to YouTube. They create their own channel, or they have their own internal thing. So if anyone is ever going through, so 3 months after you started doing it, they go, oh, how do I do this? They can go to YouTube and see it, or they can go to an internal channel to see how they do it. So they have near real-time reinforcement of how they do these things. So learning is very, very important. So we need to look at how the various channels will do this. So oftentimes when it's a large rollout, we can't do instructor-led training, but we can do virtual instructor-led training. Virtual instructor-led training is very, very important, where I'll have an instructor in one place and I can go and have software that will have a lot of people can come in at the same time. It can be very interactive. You can virtually do it through a GoToMeeting or through a WebEx or something like that, and I can record it so I can play it back. Very important to get that, because now more and more people are socially media savvy, so they want those things in near real time. The other thing is my champions, developing my champions. Who here does knowledge management? I love knowledge management for a number of reasons. First, Lana, I asked that question 1 minute ago, okay? near real time. So I love knowledge management because what it allows me to do, it allows pushing out a lot of enablement to my end users to fix things for themselves. It also enables my service desk, my frontline people, to access knowledge, to go and solve things that they don't really know anything about. And it also allows my resolver teams to show they're adding value to other parts of the organization. Now, when I look at creating champions in a knowledge management perspective, I look at going, here's the people that are contributing to knowledge management. I then need to have some measurement against these. So anyone here who has heard me talk about metrics before, I generally hate metrics. Right? Because we generate a whole lot of metrics for no good reason. I did a blog saying, so I have a close mentor who's one of the really original. If I had $1 for everyone who told me that they were one of the original people who kicked off ITIL, I wouldn't be sitting here, I'd be lying on a beach somewhere. He is one of the original guys. And we're very closely aligned on everything. I wrote this blog saying nearly all service management metrics aren't worth the trees they kill. And I sent it to him and said, can you have a once-over with it? And he'd come back and go, I totally disagree. I was a bit crestfallen. I've always wanted to get crestfallen into a presentation. I was a bit crestfallen, and that was sad, like the rest of you guys there. And I go, how come we can be so out of step with this? And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, if you change the word most to all, I totally agree with you. And what he's saying is that just about every metric we put together is just all about a number. I hate metrics that are a number because they tell it I can't make a decision out of a number. I love qualitative metrics, which shows me a quality thing. So I go, if I'm introducing in developing champions in knowledge management, I will look at 3 metrics around those people that are partaking in the process. The first one is the number of knowledge documents they publish. You know how I said I hate number metrics? That's a number metric. I only tolerate it in that because it supports some of the others. What do you think the second metric I look at? The number of hits the article gets. So Lana, if you had a prize, I'd give it to Bridget. But seeing we don't, thank you. I said if we had a prize. We don't. We don't. Oh, there you go. No, there you go. There you go. You get some reused. You get some reused carpet. I was wondering where the carpet from my hotel room at itSMF went. So the second metric is number of hits they get. And so the hits tells me that they're writing good knowledge documents. What's the third metric? You don't get to answer. You've already got some extra carpet. Excellent. How are they rated? So all of a sudden I've got 3 metrics. Who's publishing a lot? Of those that are publishing a lot, how many hits are they getting? Which means they're writing good ergonomic documents. And thirdly, the quality one, what ratings are they getting? I put those 3 together and I go, you're my champion, you help the rest. Put those cards down, I'm nearly done. Oh, you can't take another picture? Yeah, so I put those 3 metrics together and I get my champions. So I want to look at how to develop champions because guess what? Success breeds success. One of the organizations that I work with, there was a core group that wanted to be involved in this program. And there was this other group over here that didn't want to have anything to do with it. All of a sudden, we started seeing that these guys in this group were getting real results. They were showing real benefit, and they were getting put on the spotlight. Guess what? How many of these people then wanted to come across off their own will to do that? We didn't go and actively pursue them. We showed how having a champion-type environment and doing well brought others to it. success breeds success. So that's what we want to do within our service management things. Now, reporting may seem a bit funny to be here, but reporting is one of the things that I so often see get de-scoped out of these things. So they go, oh, okay, we'll go with that, or we'll go with all the out-of-the-box reports, and they look really good when you demo them, and then when you try and run them or make decisions off them, you go, no, we shouldn't have done that. So one of the things I really need at the start of the program, because I said I need to know how I'm going to do my processes and how I'm going to manage them. I also need to know what reports, what metrics I'm going to get out so I can make decisions. So I move away from that plan, do, stop to the plan, do, check, act. So I need to concentrate on the metrics that give me quality information that I can make a decision on. If you generate a metric that you can't make a decision on, I really question the value of that metric. Luckily these days we PDF them up and we don't print them, so we're not killing trees. So that's one good benefit. But a lot of the stuff we send out to our customers and metrics out of what we do is irrelevant to them. Who here's a service level manager? Okay, good. Okay, from a service level management perspective, we generally go, probably they're too afraid to put their hand up now, that's probably the problem. Yep. So from a service level management perspective, we will create all these service level reports and we'll then email them out to our customers. How many people think they actually read them? Not many, because a lot of them are all focusing on what? They're focusing on us internally. They're not focusing on them. So we've got to make sure that when we do start looking at metrics and reporting, we need to make sure that it gives us things we can make decisions on, and anything that we're going to share with our customers has a customer outcome related to it, not an IT outcome. So how do you measure success of a program? Well, if you give it to a project manager or program manager, these are generally the 3 KPIs that they are measured on. What sort of KPIs are they? They're numbers. Absolutely right, they're numbers. Correct. They're about delivering a project, right? They're not focusing on what the business outcome is. So just because someone's delivered a service management project or program on time, on budget, and to spec, does that mean you've succeeded in a business outcome? Absolutely not. You may have, but it doesn't guarantee that you have. So these are how I would measure the internal running of the project. What the customer wanted or what they needed, what the business outcomes is more the one that I need to measure on. And that's why it's so important up front. I say what my success criteria is. If I don't say what my success criteria is, how will I ever be able to measure this? A lot of organizations will achieve success on this. Very few will achieve success on this. And this is the one that you really need to measure it on. So I like to have action plans. I rarely follow them myself, but I like to have them. So these are some of the things that I talk about doing. We've talked about a whole heap of different things. It shouldn't be too hard, really, for you to go back to your organizations and look at any of those areas that you're actively engaged in at the moment and doing, and see if any of the characteristics or the things we've talked about here today are present in the way that you're doing things. If they are, say something about it. Do something about it. So it's really funny. Who's going to vote on Saturday? Okay. Who would vote if they didn't have to? Okay, very interesting. Right, so I would vote if I didn't have to, because I don't feel empowered to complain about the stupid politicians if I didn't actually throw my vote in to start with. Just the same, if you see things going wrong and you can identify quick wins, it's very important that you start doing some things. Be the ninja, be the champion, develop other ninjas around you. They will see the success that's happening and have it grow. So I really need to know how I can do this. And one of the things that I'd like to see is people take more involvement in active service improvement programs and get up and tell us at things like this and the national conference about what you've done. I hear a lot of people say, I've got nothing to say. Well, you all have something to say. Right? We don't necessarily have to hear just about the good things that happen. We also want to hear about the things that didn't work so well. So this room here is an extremely supportive environment for you to share. probably more supportive of an environment for you to share than where you are back at work. Because a lot of the people sitting here were going, God, I went through that. I wish someone had told me about it beforehand. So this is the absolute great forum to do this. So I want you to do something for me. I want everyone to stand up. What is the most sacred vow that a child can make? Come on, Brad, you've done this before. It's a pinky promise. I love my pinky promises. So what I want is each one of you to choose someone and go give a pinky promise and say, I promise I will look at something that we've talked about here today and actively do something about it. Yes? All right. Okay, some of you are holding on for a little bit too long. That's a little bit awkward. So to tell you the truth, we've actually got photographic evidence of every one of you doing that. So unless you actually do something, it'll be released to Facebook and YouTube.
It's already on YouTube.
All right, it's already on YouTube. So for those that download this, I've got an alternative view where I go through a lot of the details in bullet points, so I can grab all those different things, so you didn't have to worry about all that sort of stuff. So thank you for your time. Do I have any time for questions? Okay, I've got a few minutes for questions. More than happy to have questions. 5 minutes for questions? Okay. Lana has this other one. Yeah, that's the one she's in. Lana put that up for me at the beginning of the session. So it's always difficult in a crowd like this having questions. So how about I'll be around for a little while afterwards, so you can come up and we can have a chat. And it's been a brisk morning. This is a great turnout. Thank you for coming. Don't make this a one-off. Keep coming to these things, and don't always have people like me who are old and look like Buddha actually standing up here and doing things. You guys all have your story to tell, and I'd really love to see more of you getting up and telling that story. So thank you for your time.
Well seasoned.
Well seasoned. Oh, that was awkward, wasn't it? Right up to the kids. Oh.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your time, but also your knowledge and your experience and all the wonderful things that you do for the community. And this is just a little token of appreciation. Don't drink that before lunch. It's probably
I think I'm on the plane back.
Correct.
The planes are correct.
There is a certificate coming your way. It's just lost in transit somewhere with the luggage somewhere.
It's somewhere in the room.
It's somewhere, but we'll find it.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Peter will be around for the networking session afterwards, but right now we've got a small little segment where we'd like to say thank you to our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we cannot hold these events nationally or at the local levels, at the local seminars. So we really rely on our sponsors. And today our wonderful sponsor is obviously ServiceNow. These are all the wonderful things they do. They do lots of great stuff in the cloud, a wonderful tool, wonderful solution architects who are actually practitioners as well. So without our relationships with our sponsors, our vendors, whatever you want to call them, these sorts of events wouldn't happen. So we've got a short segment where we'll be doing a bit of a demonstration or a bit of a presentation on the wonderful capabilities of the ServiceNow solution. So without further ado, I'll hand over to David. Thank you, David. David's from ServiceNow and he's got a small presentation to run through.
Thank you very much. Look, I suspect I can probably talk about it.
Can everyone hear?
All right, so thank you, Peter, for the kind words, but thank you also for the great presentation. So, for the privilege of having my credit card behind the bar, I get to speak to you guys for probably 10 minutes or so. Certainly not going to do a demonstration because there's a number of my colleagues who are going to cringe interminably, I think, if I stood up and tried to demonstrate the product. So, I do want to just give you a little bit of a sense of who ServiceNow are. And hopefully, obviously, to engage in the future with some of the people we haven't already engaged in. So I'm going to click on the right button across that means the wrong button.
No, it's a separate file.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
Hang on. They weren't links, no. It's just put on before the session. So.
Look, firstly, just to introduce myself. So my name is David Oakley. I'm the country manager for ServiceNow. I'm in my 7th week, I think. Feels like about 7 months, but that's a good thing. Frankly, I came from a larger corporate environment where I mostly enjoyed myself. I spent the last 5 years at Oracle, where I was running the middleware business for Oracle here in Australia and New Zealand. And prior to that, the DEA systems, and prior to that with IBM. And in my time there, I'd always felt that I was working for a fairly dynamic, exciting, fast-moving company, and I found it in 6 or 7 weeks that was horribly misrepresented. So I've been very, very excited to join the service now. I felt like I've taken myself to a rocket ship. Very, very exciting company, and I wanted to try and share a little bit of that. In terms of who Service now, pretty big business, or a $6 billion market capitalisation. I think as of this morning, we're at $6.4 billion market capitalisation, listed on the New York Stock Exchange around about 14 months ago, a lot less than that current valuation. We have 1,800 customers, around about 1,400 staff globally. Apparently, we're the only ITSM vendor growing in the marketplace. So I've seen other presentations where we've identified that 4 out of the 5 customers we've brought on board out of that 1,800 are replacements with various vendors. One of the really interesting things, and that was part of the attraction for me, is that we've been growing at 80% year over year for the past 16 quarters. So it's a phenomenal growth rate for a company in our space, and at the size that we are. Here in Australia, I was employee number 45. When I looked through the staff list, 30 of those staff had joined in 2013. So we're on a very, very rapid ramp up here in Australia. We've got a fairly even mix between sales and account managers, between technical staff, like Peter and his team, and our professional services team. We have 2 cloud data centers here in Australia, which I think has proven to be a pretty big differentiator for us within that whole cloud space, particularly around the platform side of our business. And we've got some pretty big ambitions. So right now I'm being inundated with some fantastic CVs as we start to ramp up some of the hiring to the back end of this year, but we're also in the process of hunting for new office space. And we anticipate in just over 2 years that we're going to move from the 45 staff that we have now, which is roughly triple what we had 9 months ago, to around about 150 in early 2016. And again, that's going to be a mix of technical staff, consulting staff, but we're also setting up the Asia Pacific Support Centre here in Australia at Sydney. So we anticipate having probably 15 to 20 support engineers based out of Sydney by the end of Q1 next year. So a lot happening. We've got 150 customers here in Australia. So if I do the rough maths of when ServiceNow started doing business, that's 1 new customer every 12 days. And if I do the maths again over the last 12 months, accelerating growth. And that's just incredible. Coming from much bigger companies, to be acquiring a new customer every 12 days or even faster is quite incredible. And so who are those companies? Without going through all the detail, I'm sure you've seen lots of these sort of splash diagrams. I guess the interesting thing for me is that by nature, the IT service management is a very horizontal solution, and that kind of proves out within our customer base. So we have a broad spectrum of customers across education, across utilities, across finance and telco, and that's probably an interesting thing for me, is for a cloud company to be penetrating as strong as we are around finance and telecommunications, I think probably attests to some of the security and robustness and quality of the data center and our operations. Equally though, we have a very, I guess, verticalized offering. So we have a great traction at the very top end of town in banking and telecommunications. But equally, I think there's value that we bring to very, very small organizations. So here in New South Wales, customers like the Council Council of New South Wales, World Vision, very small organisations that are able to adopt ServiceNow and move forward very, very quickly. And I guess one of the really exciting things for me, I think ServiceNow has a fantastic vision, and I won't go through too much of that today, but it's a fantastic vision for how do you, as an organisation, transform your IT business. Quite often starting out around improving and capturing control of operations, but beyond that, how do you actually get ahead of the business and provide what the business wants through that IT function. And ServiceNow is very much a company that believes strongly in selling with and through IT to enable business functions. But as well as that vision, what's really captivated me and it captivated a lot of our customers is the ability to execute. And that ability to execute comes in a couple of different ways. But probably first and foremost, it is the nature of that software as a service, that cloud-based business. And to give you an example of someone that came on board as a customer and has gone live during my very, very brief tenure with the company is KPMG. So KPMG, I won't go through all the background there, but I started speaking to ServiceNow fairly recently. They placed a purchase order with ServiceNow. In 48 hours, their environment was provisioned in a data center, a production environment, a non-production environment. Within 5 weeks of placing that purchase order, they got live. And I know, certainly coming from Oracle and IBM and other backgrounds, speaking to customers, that's just completely opposed to most customer processes. Usually you'll buy software, you'll make a purchase, whether you happen to acquire new hardware or whether you're just provisioning environments within your own environment, you won't even have done that within 5 weeks. So there's something very, very powerful about the ability to execute that ServiceNow has, and other vendors, but I think we've got a very, very strong sweet spot around what we're doing. So what makes ServiceNow different? So what's so exciting about ServiceNow? I won't go through this in great detail. I think many of you already have a sense of this, but I guess a couple of key things is that ServiceNow was built for the cloud. It was built with its cloud as its DNA. And that's very, very different to a lot of other companies that you may be looking at in the marketplace. I mentioned the Australian data centers. I think that gives us a huge opportunity and advantage here in Australia to service customers in a very broad sense and quite often with quite sensitive data outside of the IT service management arena. A really, really key thing for me, and I know when I saw Peter present at the itSMF conference, one of the questions he asked was, who's currently on the latest release of their incumbent IT service management tool? I think there was maybe half a hand that tentatively went up. One of the very, very powerful things that's getting built into that software as a service model is that we will do 2 upgrades per annum in the environment without you even realizing. You're constantly on the edge and constantly able to take advantage of the R&D that we're doing as a business. It's a very highly secure business, and I mentioned that in terms of some of the customers that we have on board here in Australia. And it's a very, very extensible business. So the journey that the company's been on is we started out really ripping and replacing legacy vendors around that IT health tech space. And very, very quickly we grew out through customer demand around being what customers actually described when we adopted it as the ERP for IT. I think it's a very, very powerful message if you really get to be under the covers of it a little bit. So we have a portfolio application or a platform for the IT business to run itself in a single system of record, single platform. That's a very, very powerful message in terms of how do you transform the business of running an IT organization. But beyond that, out of the 1,800 customers that we've got globally, 75% of them have moved beyond IT service management and adopting the ServiceNow platform. So building custom applications on top of that platform, using the security, using the inbuilt security and business intelligence, using the very, very powerful development workflow and forms-based development paradigm that we've got, and creating applications for themselves to service other lines of business beyond IT. Please stop now. Okay.
She did say please.
Meant to be silent, kids.
I'm obviously getting the G up. I won't go through this in detail. This is a fantastic example if you want to have a look. So this is CERN, so the organisation that's responsible for nuclear research out of Europe. This eye is looking for the God particle. Higgs boson, that's the one. This is a fantastic story and a great example of a customer that has adopted that whole service interaction paradigm that is inherent within the IT business, but is equally applicable right across other parts of the organisation. And I will give you a very quick example. Another organisation that we're working with at the moment has been looking at us for adopting and replacing the existing IT service management tool. Through that process, a lot of lights have gone on, and they looked at maybe around about 3,000 unstructured requests every week from various parts of the business around facilities, around legal requests, around HR incidents and cases, and they looked at that and said, this stuff that we're doing around IT is exactly the same set of processes and interactions that we have right across the rest of the organisation. And they've actually put the IT tooling replacement on hold and are launching down, setting up their shared services environment based on ServiceNow. So all their facilities requests, all their HR requests, all their staff requests, all their requests for legal assistance, all those currently 3,000 unstructured requests that they get each week, funded through the ServiceNow platform to allow for proper workflow, proper security, proper reporting, all the things that we take for granted sometimes over in the IT space, bringing some of that robustness to the rest of the organisation. And that's common. We're seeing so much of that. That's exactly what we want. So, my last slide, a couple of parting messages. If you're not using ServiceNow, you should be. You are seriously missing out. Okay? So, be one of those customers that adopts in the next 12 days. This is just a general David Oakley observation, and I guess I'm privileged in my role to speak to a lot of organisations and to have a lot of view across the vendor space and also customer space. If you're currently in your role worrying and managing infrastructure, get out of it because you will not have a job. It is so immediately apparent that the role and the place of managing infrastructure, caring about hardware, it is dead. It is absolutely dead, and there is no place for that in any organisation bar a very few. A really great message that I think ServiceNow adopts very, very strongly is don't obsess over planning, obsess over execution. And I see this so often around IT service management projects, but more generally within the IT space, is that we as an organisation or as an industry tend to obsess with planning and are pretty poor on execution. And I think vendors like ServiceNow and other platforms that are out there offer an opportunity at this point in time to just get on with it and make a difference. So don't spend the next 6 or 12 months thinking about the things that you can do better as an organisation. Get on with it, because there are great platforms and great technologies out there that you can adopt and do things with. There's enormous opportunities around adopting Amazon Web Services, around working with ServiceNow, around looking at other technologies that are out there that will make a huge difference in a very, very quick space of time. If you want to hear a little bit more from me, I published an article recently on 3 steps to implement cloud services. You go to technologydecisions.com.au and search me. There's some stuff there. But thank you very, very much for your time. We are capturing business cards because we'd love to get in touch with you and harass you through our marketing initiatives. In return, we're offering the opportunity to win a $50 Visa voucher. But we would obviously love to make someone happy, but also to have the opportunity to get in touch with you guys want us to. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you to ServiceNow once again for sponsoring this seminar. So just a quick reminder, guys, we love to hear back from you with the good, the bad, the ugly. So you have a survey there with lots of little radio buttons. Colour them in, have a bit of fun. We'd like to collect them because there is a prize as well. So we'd like to make sure we collect the surveys, but also collect your business cards. So I'll be walking around with a fishbowl to collect anyone that'd like to go into the draw for that fabulous card. Right now, the last part of this session, we've got an update from the national and state news. So we've got Bradley Busch talking about national updates, and Bradley's part of the national board as a secretary, and then Kathryn Howard will come along and speak regarding everything local. She's our New South Wales chair, but I'll hand over first of all to Bradley.
Thank you, Lana. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Just while Kathryn's getting the slides up behind me, I'd just like to thank, on behalf of the board and our local New South Wales directors, Rinston, Just, and the committee for organising this fantastic event this morning. It's been a really great time. I'd also like to thank Peter for his passion before 9 o'clock in the morning, but I'm not sure I could have spoken quite so quickly, so early in the day, and also ServiceNow for their sponsorship. So very briefly then, just a quick update. So firstly, the itSMF is a member organisation. It's about you. So one of the things we've done recently is employ a new member services manager. So Alison Tucker is now working in our national office down in Melbourne. She's wanting to hear your inquiries. So if you have any questions about your membership, any questions about the services, please feel free to get in touch with Alison. One of the things we've also launched is Member Get a Member campaign. So this is an opportunity for you. If you manage to get a new member signed up, there's a gift card in it for you, a $50 gift card, up to 5 new members. And also if you sign up a corporate 5 member, then that's up to $250 in your pocket. So membership is a really important part of our organisation, and the more members we have, obviously the more services that we can deliver. So you guys are uniquely placed as members, as people who've already experienced the value that we offer, to go out and talk to new people about membership and the value of being a member of the itSMF. So here's a little incentive for you for the next month or so to go out and sign up as many new members as you can. To help you talk through some of the benefits of membership, I've got a couple of slides here, but I thought I'd just talk to you a bit personally about some of the personal benefits I see in the membership that I've had in the itSMF for over 10 years now. So firstly, it's helping me to stay current in IT service management. It's actually over the last 10 years helped me become the go-to person in my company. It is not a week goes by that someone doesn't ask me an ITIL question, doesn't ask me how to do a foundation course. And it's all because I've been able to stay current through my membership in the itSMF. I've learned from thousands of members and hundreds of other organisations, going to many national conferences, going to state-based seminars. So there's a real opportunity there for you not only to learn personally, but for you to take all of this great learning, like some of the lessons Peter's given us this morning, and learn from some other people's mistakes and go and add value back in your organisations. So learning from others has been one of the best values I've got from you. Also, as individual members, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, you actually get free access to all of the latest version of the ITIL books online. So that's several $100s worth of value a year just for a simple membership fee, and you can search for any through any of the ITIL, the new ITIL V3 2011 suite online, and use those as a resource. One of the other things the itSMF does for us as an industry that you may not be aware of, and is a real personal benefit to all of you, is that we actually advocate on a number of our standards bodies. So members of the itSMF are actually actively out there advocating in ISO 20000. In fact, Claire Brereton, one of our directors up in Queensland, is leading the charge for ITIL in small organisations. And guess what? Most organisations in Australia fall under that definition. So we're actually actively out there advocating for service management standards that make sense in our country and in our region, and that you guys as member organisations can then benefit from. And then lastly, the main benefit I've had is being able to give back to the industry. So I see service management as my career. It's something that I've been invested in for the last 10 years, and it's a real opportunity to get involved as a member of the itSMF to be able to actually give back to our industry. If you've enjoyed today's seminar, you have the opportunity to invite a friend to come along for free and try it out. But just remember, get them signed up if you'd all give. Lastly, Lead It. So Lead It is our national conference. We ran just a few months ago, or just last month in August, early August. And obviously Peter presented his presentation that you saw this morning there. So you get a sense of some of the quality of the presentations that you get at Lead It. This year we were very proud to welcome the HGAA as a partner in the conference. The HGAA actually delivered a whole stream within the conference focused on service desk and getting started with service management. That was one of the best attended streams of the conference. It was a real value to the members of both organisations. It really gave us an opportunity to engage across both memberships. So fantastic opportunity there. It was, for me, it was a time of fun and learning and networking, and I really enjoyed that opportunity just to keep growing in contacts. It was also a great opportunity to catch up with a whole bunch of vendors who you wouldn't otherwise get to see in quite a low-pressure environment. You can walk around to the stands, have a chat, get a sense of what's going on without having to invite them all in for a meeting. So actually, I have to tell you a story. I was sitting with Amber Case, who is one of our keynote presenters. I don't know if any of you have seen her work. She's presented at TED and also at South by Southwest, so two of the leading technology conferences around the world. After she presented, she's actually an IT manager in her own organisation, and she said Lead It is going to go on her conference rotation for next year. She absolutely wants to be there, and she saw the value that she got. So this is a global conference, and it's right in your backyard. Speaking of right in your backyard, we're in Melbourne next year in the middle of August. So two things to do. Firstly, plan to be there. Secondly, plan to tell your story there. So just as Peter invited you to do, You're all members, and the greatest thing that our members demand is case studies of stories from the membership base. So please be preparing to tell your story. Talk to any one of our committee members here. We're more than happy to lead you through the process and to help you get a presentation up. But we really, really want to hear from you, and also so do all of your colleagues, not only in this room but around Australia. And just finally, networking is one of the best benefits of being a member of the itSMF. So if you are looking for staff, if you're looking for opportunities yourself, if you have a problem that you'd like to solve, please feel free to talk to one of our committee members. We know most of the people in the room already, so we're more than happy to help you make those connections. So don't feel like you have to rush away at the end of the event. Please stay around, make a few connections, shake a few hands, and get to know some of the people in this room and build your service management network. So thank you for listening. I'm going to hand straight over to Kathryn.
Thanks, Brad. So, I'll just get some slides opening here. Right, as Brad said, it's all about networking. So, yes, when this seminar is finished, please hang about and talk to your colleagues and friends. And anyone who's got one of these special name tags, you know, track them down and talk to them. Yeah, because that's your committee. So, yes, all these wonderful people are all on your Sydney, New South Wales committee. Not all here today, but certainly there's a well-represented bunch in the room. So we'd love to talk to you. So getting social with the itSMF. As you've seen me driving the laptop in the corner, which I think Simone is now probably trying to zoom in on me or something, we are streaming live to YouTube as we speak. So this is a bit of a first. I think it might even be a world first for an entire seminar. I've seen YouTubes of specific presentations from UK seminars, but I don't think I've seen a complete seminar being YouTubed. So anyway, on the itSMF YouTube channel after this event, it will be processed and yes, it will be downloadable if you want to view it again, and available around the country, so around the world. Also too, we have the LinkedIn group. I please encourage you to go and participate, share discussions with your colleagues. And definitely Twitter, please tweet away. There's been some tweeting going on as we've been chatting this morning. And Facebook and Flickr and all the rest of it. And there's a whole bunch of photos up on Facebook from the conference. So please go have a look. And there are more being added daily. The office is trying to process through them. And also too, there are various little clips of YouTube going up on YouTube from the conference as well. So 2014, it's not that far away, and we're looking for what we're going to do with presentations for next year. So I'd invite you to tell your story, as Brad said. We're looking for full-on presentations. We're looking for 5-minute ignites. Now, what's an ignite? Some of you might want to know. Well, ignite is a very fun little presentation. It's 20 PowerPoint slides that auto-advance every 15 seconds. So it's 5 minutes worth of presenting. So we don't ask that it necessarily is about service management, but something that's of interest and useful to a service management professional. So that could be, you know, death by PowerPoint or, you know, presentation skills, anything that's useful to an itSM professional. So we really encourage you to think about that, because Ignite's a good fun. They're really fun to do. And also too, workshops. We run special interest groups, so we're looking for people who are interested in running workshops for us, and also to panelists. So if you've got a specific area that you're in, whether it's change management, service level management, we're always looking for people who will participate and tell their stories like it is in the real world. Yes, or make us an offer. If there's something you really want to do, tell me about it, or tell the committee about it, and we'll work with it. Okay, so definitely 2014, we're starting to plan the events now. And yes, our upcoming events. For the rest of this year, there's 2 more events in New South Wales this year. So we have the seminar at the end of November. So it's a high tea cafe. What is that? It's basically it's like the World Cafe. We have a series of tables, and we will have a special subject for each table. Each table will discuss for 20 minutes or so, and then it's move the tables. Right, so it's good fun. We will also have a presenter at that particular seminar as well, and we always have fun at our Christmas function. There will be lots of giveaways, and yes, we do have a really good time. And we also have a special interest group coming up in October. So we have a workshop around the Edward de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats, which is the different types of personalities that you might encounter in the workplace and how to deal with them. So please put them in your calendar and come along. And next year, these are our dates for 2014. So please write them up. We don't know if they're going to be afternoons, breakfasts, or whatever's at the moment, but those will be the dates. It's been about 2 years since we surveyed the membership about what you prefer, whether it's afternoons, mornings, evenings, which is actually why we're having a breakfast now. We've actually run a breakfast seminar for the last 2 years because there were enough people who said they would come. And it's great to see all you here. It's fantastic. So there will be a survey out to the membership in the coming month or so, basically inquiring as to what you want from us, because this is your forum. So you need to tell us, and we'll do our best to accommodate. And that's about it for me, actually. So that's it for New South Wales, and thank you for coming. I'll get back to Lana.
Thank you very much. Well, this does draw the festivities to a close. Sorry we didn't have any vodka for the orange juice, but I'm sure none of us would go back to work if we partook in those festivities. Just a quick reminder, the committee members will now walk around and grab your surveys because we've got some fabulous draw prizes to give away, but we'd also like to draw the prize from Service Now. So we've got about another 5 minutes. If you can, if the bowl will be left up the front, if you could pop your business card in or write your name down with your contact details on a piece of paper, I'm sure they'll accept that as well. So we'll draw that. We'll actually ask the iTool Ninja to come and draw that. And we'll also draw the prizes from the surveys. But I'd like to say, first of all, thank you for every one of you for getting up early, putting on your best DAX and getting here on time. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate you being here. I'd also like to thank, obviously, the iTool Ninja, but Service Now, our sponsors. So thank you once again for a wonderful sponsorship and seminar. Great content from the iTool Ninja. As we've mentioned before, and so has Peter, that'll be available as a download for you. So lots of great information in Peter's presentation. We'd also like to thank the committee members for, we're all volunteers, so thank you for the committee members that do the administration behind the scenes, all the back office stuff, printing out the labels, getting here early, setting up the tables, and organising the content and organising our fabulous speakers such as Peter. So once again, thank you very much, and we'll probably, we've got some time for networking, so feel free to grab some more coffees, some more food, network with the committee members, and in about 5 minutes time we'll actually draw the prizes. Thank you very much.